Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL Podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL Podcast, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Lake, and I am not joined by a co-host today. I am flying solo, but I have an exciting episode. We're talking about a wish sailing today, and for that, we would like to welcome Virgil to the show. Virgil, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Lake. How are you?
I am doing all right. Excited to get into this. Just a nice classic wish sailing. We do have a small twist. This was an adult-only sailing.
It was. My wife and I started a tradition a few years back where late February, early March, near our anniversary, we do a little 4-night sailing, just the two of us, try to prioritize our relationship and just get away for a few days. And this wish sailing, we booked it the day it opened. This was originally the third non-inaugural sailing for the Wish, and then it just kept having to bump it for different reasons. So this poor reservation was a couple years old by the time we finally made it on board. So we were super excited to finally get there.
Awesome. Why don't you give us just a little bit more of your Disney and cruising background before we get into it?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Central Florida near Tampa. I was actually a cast member 100 years ago at Epcot and bounced around quite a bit after I got married. I was in the military, so we were all over the place. And of course, raising Disney kids as one does. I've been back to the parks many times. And in 2014, I wanted to run the Disney Marathon and figured we were living in Seattle at that point. Thought, well, if we're going to spend all the time and money to fly from Seattle to Orlando to be there for marathon weekend, while we're there, why don't we just go on a cruise? Just save the airfare. And so we were on the Fantasy for 7 nights with all the kids for our first cruise, and we're absolutely hooked. And so now we've been on several at this point. We took a big gap there in the middle, but we've been on the Wonder a few times in the Fantasy and now the Wish, as well as being back to the parks and Aulani a couple times as well.
Awesome. And thank you for your service, of course. Well, we already got in kind of why you picked this sailing, so why don't we go ahead and get on down to the port. How did you get down to Port Canaveral from where you're from, and what was your embarkation process like?
Sure. So we are currently living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We flew in a couple of days early. We spent one day at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at that other theme park, a little northeast of Disney. And last night, we switched down to Riviera because we wanted to stay there, but also because we wanted to be on property for the transfers. So we had not been to Port Canaveral since that first cruise. Every cruise we've taken since then was either out of New Orleans or San Diego or, Vancouver. So this was our first time back at Port Canaveral. And we had some hiccups with private transfers the first time, and we didn't want to do that again. So we knew we were going to use Disney transfers. So I thought, what the heck, we'll just get on property. So we got a steal at Riviera through some DVC rental points and pre-nighted there. And then the morning of embarkation, woke up, met everybody in the little lounge there at Riviera, got on the coach, made one other stop on property, and then we were at Port Canaveral, I want to say about an hour and 10 minutes after we got on the bus, including the other stops. So it felt real fast. It was pretty seamless, and then straight through security, straight up the escalators and back into the terminal.
Yeah, don't sleep on those DVC rentals, especially the
confirmed. That's what we got, believe it or not. So 3 trips in a row we tried to stay at Riviera, but we always had kids. So the Riviera is extremely expensive, especially when you start going to the 1-bedroom rooms, right? So we're looking at this going, do our kids even care? They don't care that we're staying at the Riviera. They want to stay somewhere that feels more like a place that would be interesting to them. So we couldn't really justify the spend. But then after we had already decided on this sailing, we were already booked, and I want to say it was either Coronado or Caribbean Beach. I don't remember which of the two it was, but I got an email from a DVC rental place that said, hey, look at these confirmed reservations, and popped it open, and it was a standard room, 1 night confirmed the exact day we needed to be there. And we say, hey, we can't not do this. This is perfect. It's exactly what we need when we need it, where we want to be. So let's just do it. And it was awesome. We really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Well, turning back towards the port, you get to Port Canaveral. What was your embarkation process like, and how was it like boarding the Wish for the first time?
So being back at Port Canaveral, it was a stark reminder how much of a well-oiled machine that embarkation port is, especially compared to we did one out of New Orleans. God bless them. That was right at the restart, and it was just a cluster. It was still during testing, COVID testing. It was wild, man. It was so being at Port Canaveral and essentially having them be like, okay, go here, go there, up the escalator, Magic Band Plus, check here, go there. Your boarding group will be called in a minute. Boarding group called, got the photo, went through the Mickey ears. I mean, it was wildly simplistic based compared to the previous 3 sailings that were out of non-Disney ports. But then when we finally got to the gangway and went over into the Wish, it's such a stark difference to all the other ships that the first impression, it honestly, we were kind of speechless. It was just, you're just looking around and it's so elegant, so beautiful, so completely different than the others that we just kind of stood there and stared for a minute and then went, oh yeah, we have stuff to do. So it took us a minute to remember that we had some things we needed to accomplish.
Yeah, it definitely lives up to that Grand Hall name for sure.
It really does. Yep, absolutely.
Well, we get on board. Where is our first stop of the day? Are we sit down, lunch, or not cabanas on this ship, Marceline Market, actually?
First stop was you and I chatted a little bit ago, and I'm probably going to say some things that many Disney cruisers will find controversial or maybe even sacrilegious. But we immediately went straight for Hyperspace Lounge. We are major Star Wars nerds. My oldest child's name is Luke. We weren't going to go somewhere other than there first. So we went straight there, and we actually really loved it. Again, I know a lot of people have had some issues with it, and I can see where they're coming from, but we really enjoyed it. Again, approaching it with an open mind and just being happy to be there. We got a couple drinks and just were taking it all in, and then I needed to run up to Luna to try to get Apollo steak brunch reservation. So I went upstairs, left my wife in the lounge, went upstairs, and when I got to Luna, there was only one other person. They said, oh, hey, we're starting in about 40 minutes with dining changes. So I went back down to the lounge. Oh, yeah, so we were boarding group 4. So we were on the ship, I think, at like 11:35 or 11:40. It was amazing. So then I went down to the lounge with my wife, and then at the time they said to come back, went upstairs, and in just that, like the 20 or 25-minute period, it completely filled up. So it went from me and a couple other dudes to the room is full. So unfortunately, we missed out on the Apollo reservation, which was a bit of a bummer, but it was all right. It still was an amazing cruise, but that was the one piece that we kind of missed out on I didn't know to expect it to fill up quite as quickly as it did. But then when it was time for lunch, we went up to Festival of Foods. We had wanted to try that and was even hoping and believing that it was going to be great. It exceeded our expectations. I think that if we were to rank the dining, like the main dining locations on the ship, I would put it right behind 1923 as my favorite place to eat. I would rather eat there than Marvel or Arendelle. It was really great.
That is a fair assessment. Our last Wish sailing, we did skip some main dining for Festival of Foods.
Yeah.
And I gave you the option of sit down and Marceline, as if Festival of Foods is not the best option between the 3.
And it's almost like you don't want to start telling everybody skip Marceline and go to Festival of Foods, because then when you're on a Wish sailing, you're going to have to contend with the crowds. So it's almost like you just want to tell, hey, everybody, go to Marceline Market. That way there's not a huge lineup on the deck. But we got there literally as the barbecue place was putting the food out. Like they were just starting the service. Again, we live in North Texas, and I was born and raised in the South. Good barbecue is something I am familiar with. There was nothing on that plate that I didn't think was at least good, if not exceptional. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing a great job of smoking meat on a cruise ship.
Yeah, it is so solid up there, and there's so many good options. Even when it's pretty busy, I don't feel like the lines are too crazy up there, though. Like maybe peak lunch on a sea day, it's a little busy, but we've never gone up there and been like, oh, there's too many people here to get food. The
only place that looked a little overwhelming that if I had wanted to eat there, I probably would have second-guessed myself was at Goofy's, like the grill, where you get the burgers and the tenders and all that. That was chaos by the time we ate barbecue. We shared a barbecue plate, and then I was going to go get some Donald's Chipotle. And my wife was like, hey, grab some chicken tenders, whatever. And I went over there and was like, yeah, maybe not. The line is very, very, very long. They were cranking through people. The cast members were amazing, serving quickly, and it was great. Plenty of places to sit. It was a very pleasant, low-key, low-stress way to start the cruise.
Yeah, we got to get those cruise chicken tenders. Maybe we hyped those up just a little bit too much now.
Right, absolutely.
Well, we get our lunch. I'm going to guess that we waited for staterooms to open up after that.
We knew we were going to do sail away party, so we didn't want to get lost in stateroom back and forth and all that. And is it ready? Is it not ready? So we went down, I want to say right at 1:30, and the little barricade rope tape thing was already gone. So they were open before the 1:30 estimate, and we went in our stateroom, and our bags were not quite there yet. Funny enough, we had a room that faced Port Canaveral. So after the refueling operations were done and we were out on the veranda, I could see our bags down on the little baggage cart. I was like, hey, there's our stuff right there. And to the point where we went to the sailaway party and we looked and was like, man, our bags are still down there. I hope they're gonna make it on at some point. But after the sailaway drill, we went down to the stateroom and they were there, of course. So Disney is a well-oiled machine.
Awesome. Sticking to the stateroom real quick, what kind of cabin did you have booked and how did that work out for you and your wife?
So we did the deluxe ocean view with veranda. We were deck 8 midship. We were in one of the little bump out verandas with the larger verandas that are kind of in it's hard to explain if you haven't seen it, but I'm sure by now most people have, but the little bump outs in the middle of the ship where the verandas are a little bit larger. We really enjoyed it. We spent a lot of time on the veranda, both in port and at sea. And we thought that the previous, some people had experienced where their room was that those verandas, you kind of lost some privacy based on the style because the staterooms to the left and right could see kind of yours because we were sticking out further. We didn't find that to be true. We really enjoyed where we were at. Deck 8 was wonderful. It was quiet. We were close to the elevators, but not too close. And if we were to get that category again, we'd definitely try to get that same location.
Moving into your evening then, are we early dining people, late dining people?
We don't really care either way when it's just the two of us. So we we were early dining on this one. We typically go late dining, but on this one we had early dining and we were fine with that. Let's try something different. And we found that we actually really enjoyed that considering it was the first time we had done that since our last cruise with the family several years ago. So the last several cruises we've done, just couples, were always late dining because we're like, whatever, just give us. This one we had early dining and we loved it. It was great.
Awesome. Where was our first night of dining?
1923. We started with a bang and went to the best one first, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. I agree with some of the other cruisers who have said that it's pretty tight in there. We were on the Roy side, but Roy and Walt, I guess the sides are identical. It is a little tight in there, but the food was excellent, and our server staff was incredible as well.
Yeah, all the restaurants on the Wish definitely feel a little bit or a lot of bit tight, depending on how you feel. Right. But definitely starting with a bang at 1923 there, arguably the best of the rotational dining in the Disney Cruise Line fleet. Yeah,
we loved it. Comparing it to the others, I'm kind of a sucker for animators on the Wonder and Magic, but it's a really cool experience. I like watching the stuff go from black and white into color or whatever, but the food there is so elevated, in my opinion, compared to the other main dining restaurants and most of the ships that it's an unbelievable experience.
Moving on from dining, what entertainment did we get up to into the evening?
So we went to the show and we really enjoyed it. It was one of the things where we're like, are we gonna go to the shows? Like, are we really gonna be those adults that are here with no kids and go to the shows every night? We're like, yeah, whatever, we'll try. And we went to the first one and we're like, okay. We're walking out and we're both, misty eyed. We're like, I'm not crying, you're crying. And of course we're gonna go to the shows after that. And I will say that maybe it's just been a while, but I don't remember the Dream Class ship theaters feeling that crowded. We got there, oh man, I'd say 15 or 20 minutes before the show, and it was already just crammed full of people. And the theater's gorgeous. I mean, it's so pretty, and all the technology that they've added with the projections and all that, it's a very immersive experience. But I felt like it felt maybe a lot more crowded than the Dream and the Fantasy theaters did, but maybe it's just me. I don't know. But we really enjoyed the show on the first night.
Yeah, it can depend on that dining rotation as well. Typically, when you were that early dining, then all of the larger families with kids are trying to make it to that later show, right. Whereas the earlier show tends to be a little bit more chill.
Yeah, all credit to Disney. The cast members were really busting their backs trying to make sure that everybody had a seat and at least somewhat with their party. But I do feel like at some point maybe we need to just abandon the concept of we don't allow seat saving, because everybody in that theater is saving seats for somebody. So maybe there's a different method by which we could save seats and do it. It did feel like maybe there's a better way to make sure that everybody gets to sit with their family without, saying, oh, we're not saving seats, but let me just put a popcorn bucket on every third seat of this row. It's probably a small thing, but it was definitely something we noticed for sure.
Yeah, it definitely can be a little bit hard there. I wonder if they would ever move towards like a assigned seating like some other cruise lines do now.
Yeah, I mean, heck, if Southwest Airlines can do switch to assigned seating, why not Disney Cruise Line?
That was good. That got
Yeah,
me.
maybe even just like, hey, since the majority of people who are on Southwest inbound to Orlando are going to something Disney, your plane seat can correspond with your seat in the Walt Disney Theater. Why not?
Well, moving into the evening, did we get up to anything else this night?
So yeah, we went to Nightingale's, and I did not expect to like it as much as we did. We ended up going 3 times total, but Embarkation Night was the first night that we went. My wife and I are musicians and big into theater and Broadway shows and musicals and standard plays as well. So the first night, the piano player in there, who was incredible, was doing a best of Broadway set. And it was a bunch of people. So my wife and I dressed up, and like for 1923, we're doing like the flapper and, 1920s style clothes. So then we're sitting in Nightingales dressed up like that. And there were several other couples who were all dressed up as well. And we're all in there like humming or outright singing along with this guy playing Broadway show tunes on his piano in Nightingales. And I thought, these are our people. We should just pass out a sign up sheet for the you guys are all of our friends now. We're all officially friends. Just send a clipboard around and get everybody's Instagram handle or something. But it was really cool to be in a room of all adults on a Disney ship full of people who are all love Broadway. It was a really cool night, and it was just a very low key, nice, calm way to end the first night. Because it's when you wake up 6:30 in the morning to make sure your bags get out, and then the long travel day, even though you're only going on Disney transfers, and then it's the rush of embarkation day, and you're running around trying to change dining reservations and get your week-long pass to Senses and all this. And once you're finally there at the end of the first night, it's a nice way to just kind of calm down and unwind from the first day.
Awesome. Well, that takes us into our next day, which should be your sea day, correct?
Nope, Nassau.
Oh, you were going a little out of order here on me. Was this Nassau Castaway Sea Day then?
It did.
Oh, that is the preferred 4-night experience.
It's wonderful. We're doing it again here in a few weeks, and we're really excited about it. I agree. That last night as a sea day is perfect.
Well, did we get up to anything in Nassau?
Well, we got up to not getting off the ship. We hear a lot. Nassau is best experience from the deck of whatever ship that brought you there. And, we kicked around the idea of maybe going to Atlantis, but ultimately we decided, you know what, we're here to see the Wish and to experience the Wish. And so that's what we did. So we ended up doing the Aqua Mouse, and we did a lot of time in Senses on Nassau Day. So we did a couples massage that day as well. So it was a couples massage, and pretty much I think we spent, total of close to 6 hours in Senses on Nassau Day.
Oh, what an awesome way to spend your Nassau day.
100%. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. What did you think of you did the rainforest room as well then, right?
So we did it was a couples massage. A couples massage that includes like there's a hot tub in the room.
The retreat or hideaway, something of that.
Yes. So we started off with like half hour or something like that. So first it was very strange, the order. It didn't really make sense to me, but I don't know. It was like a foot scrub and tea service followed by half an hour in the jacuzzi and then an hour-long massage and then fruit and tea again at the end. That every single penny that we spent on that was worth it. And then some. It was amazing. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Yeah, my wife and I did that on the Dream, and we really loved it. Well, I would definitely call it for us maybe like a once or once in a while type of experience. It is pretty pricey, but it was very lovely. Yeah,
we were on the Wish here again in a month and a half or so. We didn't even look at it. Like to your point, we're going to be with the kids this time, and it's not even a consideration, but could not stress enough how much we thought it was worth the money that we spent on it.
Well, we spend all day in the spa. What did we get up to in the evening? Where was our dining?
We had Marvel on night 2 and 3, but the rotation was 1923 Marvel Arendelle, but we did Enchanté on night number 3. So we had our actual Marvel experience was on Nassau night.
What did you think of Worlds of Marvel?
It was just okay. Again, to each his own, but the little quantum core thing in the middle of the table, that was cool once, maybe twice, definitely not, hey, everybody, push your button for the 11th time. It just wasn't really our thing. And I was very, very underwhelmed by the food. And the entire experience was like, okay, check in the box. Glad we aren't here again tomorrow night.
Yeah, Even for my wife and I, Worlds of Marvel has continued to be the most lackluster of the menus on that ship, unfortunately, and we are big Marvel fans. But yeah, that show I think gets a little bit old after a while. Hopefully, looking forward to seeing the new Groot themed show on the next ship.
I would be excited about that as well. I will say the menu, again, not our favorite, but we did have amazing food because on the first night, we asked our head server if he would grab us curry from the crew mess, which they brought to Marvel and then again to Arendelle. And anybody who is into curry, I encourage you, ask your serving staff, your serving team to bring you curry if they can. They can't always do it, I don't think, but each time we've asked, they've been able to, and it is out of this world good. We had vegetarian curry to go along with the very random menu that is served in Marvel.
Yeah, that is one hack that we have yet to try on any of our sailings.
Gotta do it.
We will eventually. We'll get there. Moving into the evening, what did we get up to?
Oh, so we did. What did we do? Oh, okay. So that night we went to Hook's Barbary. I am a major whiskey fanatic and was dying to get in there and experience the speakeasy, and went in there and saw some of the most rare whiskeys that I've ever been around. I've got a pretty decent collection, but there were bottles of whiskey in that speakeasy that I've only heard rumors about it's incredible, the selection of whiskey that they have in a tiny little, essentially in a barbershop on a cruise ship. Had an amazing smoked old fashioned, mind-blowingly good, and a very cool experience as well. Very cool character interaction as we were leaving. Belle in her, not in her pretty, ball gown, but in her blue and white dress. As we're leaving Hooks, Belle is just walking around the ship reading a book, walking through the passageways of the ship. And, if she ran into someone, she would stand there for a minute and talk. But it's just kind of this weird, surreal experience where you're like, oh, there Belle's walking down the hall reading a book. Hi, Belle. It was kind of neat. Obviously you don't get that in the parks or really at Aulani. But after Hooks, we did some shopping, and then we ended up back in Hyperspace Lounge before we went back up to bed.
Awesome. Sounds like a great evening. I have heard that smoked old fashioned is like top tier drink to get on the Wish.
It's wonderful. We had actually 3 of them. We had the one there. We had the one upstairs. Well, I had one upstairs while my wife had the rose. The night we did Enchanté, she had the rose cocktail. And then the last day we had one down in one of the other little, I think it was probably the Sword Cafe or whatever it was. All of them were amazing, but that was the one in Hook's Barbary is by far the best.
Moving on to our next day, we have our very beautiful private island, Castaway. What did we get up to on the island?
Being at Castaway, that was what we were up to. We were so excited. We had not been to Castaway since 2014. It had been 10 years, almost exactly 10 years actually, which is weird. And it was really good to be back. We had a perfect weather day. The tides were a little unfavorable when we got there. We went straight to the adults only section. The tides were pretty low over there. So I think we got pretty far out before we were even knee deep. A couple hours later when the tides came back in, that obviously wasn't the case, but the beauty and the peacefulness and the serenity of the Castaway Key is just, it's impossible to explain to someone. You just have to say, just go there. Like, you can't really explain it. It's wonderful. The one thing that we were really excited about was how much the food is improved. But I don't know what happened or when it happened or why, but the first time we were there, we went to Cookies, and it was not inedible, but close. This time we thoroughly enjoyed our lunch. The chicken was good. The burgers were good. Everything was so much better than it had been the first time. I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, we're a big fan of the food on Castaway, and honestly, as of recently, we've heard nothing but rave reviews for it. Which beach did you end up hanging out at?
So we ended up at the adults only beach, and so our sailing wasn't, I don't know what the percentage was, but it certainly wasn't full. So when we got out to Castaway, you get out to the adult only section, and we felt like there were other people there, obviously, but it was very sparse. We had wide spaces on the beach where it was just us. So right as you come into Serenity Bay, there's the tiki hut right there where they have the cocktails. And then we went literally 50 feet from there and got 2 hammocks right down the path there and just stayed, went out in the water, came back, went out in the water, came back, read a book, went out. I mean, it was the best day of doing very little we've had in a very, very long time.
Yeah, those Serenity hammocks can be quite coveted.
Oh man, you hear that, and we expected that, but when we got, I mean, there was never a point of the day where there wasn't several of them available. So it was. I don't know if it was just a real kid heavy sailing that we were on, or if a lot of people just didn't want to go all the way out there. What the deal was, but we found it to be there's more than enough for anybody who wanted one.
Love it. Well, we head back towards the ship. Did we get up to anything before we headed to dinner?
Yes, we did Aquamouse and liked it and thought, okay, that was cool. Glad we did that. And now we've done that. It felt like it was a really great idea that didn't fully come to fruition. Like it almost felt like there was something missing. Like there's one little element of the thing that wasn't. It was all over so quickly that the screens and all the plot line as it was kind of cool, but it was okay. That was neat, but we don't feel like we need to do that again. And then, okay, so my wife had a really great experience in Untangled before the cruise, had paid lots of money, as some do, to have her nails done. While we were on Castaway, like one of her nails just completely broke off, like totally just came off. And we were going to Enchante that night for dinner. And so as soon as we got back on the ship, we went into Untangled and said, hey, is there anybody here who can help? One of the sweet cast members in there totally, like, my wife's nails were extremely intricate, and she was able to mimic what someone else had done a week earlier and, 1,000 miles away and make it look virtually identical. Like you couldn't tell that it was a patch job. Was very sweet and took care of her like without an appointment, like worked her in and took care of it. Then the next day during the sea day, it cracked, the repair cracked, and my wife went in and showed it to her, and she replaced it again for free. So they, the Untangled salon staff were really great to her, and so she went and got her nails done, fixed before we got ready to go up to Enchante.
Well, why don't we move right into Enchante then? How was your meal?
It was wonderful. We are major foodies. We love really great dining experiences, and Remy is still, 10 years later, top 5 experiences I've ever had at a restaurant. I still would love to find someone who can explain to me the bread cube full of tomato soup. Whatever dark magic sorcery is required to make that happen, I need someone to teach me. But we were really hoping that Enchante would at least live up to the Remy standard. I got the chef's menu. My wife just got the standard prefix menu. And from the minute we sat down until the minute we hoisted ourselves out of the booth, 11 courses and 9 courses later, it was fantastic. Start to finish, food, service, experience. The only thing we ran into is we sit down and our server, who was from England, comes over and he's like, all right, so are we having still water or are we having sparkling water? And I was like, oh, still water's fine. He's like, all right, we have still water from England. It's from Birmingham, England, I think is what he said. And I'm from pretty close to there. So this is the one I recommend. Like, okay, cool, whatever. Birmingham, England water sounds great. Wonderful. So he brings the water and he's filling our stuff. And throughout the night, he kept bringing more water. And I was drinking a lot of water. Like I kept cleansing my palate. I wanted to make sure I was fully experiencing, every intricate flavor, all 39,000 preparations of tomato and all the different things that they brought in front of us. And so as the palate cleanser, I think we went through 6 bottles of water. All right. So at the very end of the night, they bring the bill. And I'm like, why is there a charge for, I think it was $85 for water on our bill? It just would have been maybe nice to know that the Birmingham, England water was more than $10 a bottle. That would have been helpful information on the front end, because for all that, we could have almost done the wine pairing because it would have been just slightly more for the wine pairing. But that's all right. That was the one speed bump where at the end of it, we're like, how in the world did we just spend almost $100 on bottled water? But
yeah, usually they bring you a menu and say, hey, this is our specialty waters or something of the sort. This isn't the first time that we've heard from Enchante specifically where they're like trying to sneak these charges in.
Right.
That's a little bit of a miss, at least even just hearing it on my end. I don't love that, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't love it either. Okay, so they have some, again, going back to the whiskeys, they have some bottles of whiskey on the Wish where a double shot would be in the thousands. And so if you walk in and you're like, hey, I would like to get a old fashioned made with, I guarantee you the bartender is going to say, okay, sir, do you understand that you just ordered a $5,000 cocktail, right? And it's not Khyber, and it doesn't come with the tour of, George Lucas's ranch. This is just $5,000 for a double shot of whiskey, right? So obviously $5,000 and $8 are nowhere close to the same thing. But it would be nice if they just say, so you understand you're drinking, your bottle of water is like $10 a bottle, right? Because then at that point, you can say either, yeah, great, keep bringing it, or maybe not so much. But it's fine. It was, you live and you learn. Now I know that bottled water is very expensive in Birmingham, England.
Moving on from dinner, this would also be your pirate night. Did we get up to any pirate antics on board?
Yep. But we had a relatively early seating at Enchante by design because we wanted to get up to the pirate party, and Red's rockin' pirate party or whatever it's called. It was great. It was wonderful. It was the best pirate night show of any of the ones that we've been to. The live music, the musicians were amazing. The music is good. I mean, it's a cover band singing songs you've heard and know, but that's the point, right? Like, it's not supposed to be some singer-songwriter being like, hey, I wrote this in my mom's basement when I was going through a hard time in my life. It's, hey, let's have a good time and then blow off some fireworks, right? So it was a really cool show. It was great. When we go again here in a few weeks, we'll definitely see it again. We really enjoyed it. The weather was perfect. It was a really good time.
Yeah, the Pirate Parlay show is definitely a highlight on the Wish. Great music and, music of an era that pretty much everyone can enjoy.
For
definitely
sure.
one of the best pirate nights on board.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And if you can't get down to live music on the deck, people dressed up as pirates singing songs that everybody over the age of 15 is going to know by heart while they blow off fireworks in the middle of the ocean, like, come on, man, you live a little.
Awesome. Did we get up to anything else this evening before we turned it in?
Honestly, at some point, it was either Castaway night or maybe it was the next day, but at some point in here, we went to some trivia. I don't remember exactly what night it was, but we did some trivia at some point and really enjoyed that as well.
All right, well, why don't we move into our last full day? Now, luckily, as we talked about before, this is your sea day, so I'm sure we are quite full of activities here. What did we get up to?
Oh, man. Okay, so we did a lot of gift shop on our sea day and a lot of senses/rainforest room stuff. We also spent some time in the adults only area up on the top deck. It was like, okay, let's make a list of everything we haven't done yet and let's cross off as many of them as we can without feeling like we're going to waste this last day running in circles around the ship. We did Festival of Foods again for lunch, and we did, at some point on our sea day, we had room service as well. I think that was breakfast. And we really just wanted to take it all in. That for us, the Wish was the destination. So we spent a lot of time looking at the nerdy stuff, like the display case in the Grand Hall where they've got the model ship that one of the architects put it together in pieces, and it's his actual model is there in the thing. And we spent a lot of time at the cafes on board, mostly to the point that we were speaking about before we started our conversation on the recording. I really love the Wish. Overall, I expected to like it, but I loved it. I think that for all the talk about, there's no midship elevators and there's not a continual track around the middle deck and there's not a this, there's not a that, the layout's weird, this, that, and the other. Those things are probably true. But for the beauty of the ship, the elegance of it, the fact that there's like nearly a dozen places to get a really good cup of coffee as opposed to just Cove Cafe and, either Soul Cat or Tiana's, whatever that one, like used to be the Promenade Lounge. I really think it's a huge upgrade across the board. So we spent the sea day really just taking it all in and experiencing the ship. And we really made sure that we weren't leaving on Friday having a long list of things we've missed out on.
Well, we have one more meal this evening. Is this Arendelle, or did we get up to something else?
No, this was Arendelle. Good old Arendelle. If I was making a list of all the main dining spots on all the ships we've been on and putting them like power rankings, I would struggle to decide if I wanted to put Arendelle or Marvel at the very bottom of the list, but whichever one wasn't would be right above it. That to say, you're still going to have a good meal unless you just don't want to. It's still good food, still great service. And again, I had another bowl of mind-blowing curry. So if all else fails, eat the curry. It is so stinking loud. I will just say, if you are a parent and you're listening to this podcast and you have a child with any sensory sensitivities whatsoever, get on Amazon and buy a pair of headphones, like the earmuffs rather, because it is, especially if you're anywhere close to the stage, it is extremely loud in there to the point where you almost can't talk to the people you're with because you have to yell at them for them to hear you. And the show was good. The musicians were good. My favorite part, I think, was a lot of the Easter eggs in the restaurant itself. The Joan of Arc photo as you're walking in, and some of the other nods to the movies and stuff there throughout the restaurant. That was fun for me. The food was just okay. All right.
I find this menu to be delightfully surprising. Is it in my top of DCL menus? No, but I do like that I really think they tried to go very different with this menu, and I enjoy it for that. But it is the tightest of the restaurants.
My God. Oh, absolutely. There was a party of 10, one table over. I don't see how they did it. Like, it's almost like, hey, we're going to sit down and you're going to sit here for 2 hours. Because if one of you gets up, we all have to get up. To your point, I like that they went regional with the food, right? So they have some of the Swedish meatball type things. And it gives me hope for things like the Coco Plaza de Coco, right? Please, Disney, please bring the same energy when you do the menu for Plaza de Coco. Give us dishes that are actually good Hispanic food, not just Tex-Mex. Don't give us Chili's at sea. Go on a limb and give us good regional Hispanic cuisine that actually tastes like what it's representing. Because if they're going to give you Swedish meatballs in like lingonberry jam in Arendelle, then they better be able to give you, like some kind of food that is representative of Hispanic culture. So if the experience was different, I would have probably had a different opinion of the food, to be honest. But we were really ready to get out of there by the time it was over.
Yeah, definitely agree about the potential of Plaza de Coco. Definitely a lot they could do there. We get you out of the chicken coop in there, and we move on with our evening. What did we get up to on our last evening at sea?
Oh, boy. Okay, so here's a weird thing. We went to the laundromat. Now, we're on deck 8, so we're right around the corner from the laundromat. And I will say, the laundromat setup on the Wish is fantastic. The fact that when you put in your clothes and it will send a message to your phone when it's done is revolutionary. I don't know why other laundromats don't do this, or at least the laundromat. We haven't been to a laundromat in a very long time, but the last time we went to one on the Wonder, it's like we're seriously going to spend time out of our cruise babysitting the dryer. But this, it's like you set it and then it sends you a message when it's done. You go back and get it. Easy peasy, it's done. So we love that. That was great because no one wants to take home a bag of dirty clothes. And we went to Joyful Sweets. We really enjoyed Joyful Sweets quite a bit. I think they did really well with that. They, I think, have found the little, pardon the horrible pun, but they found the sweet spot between having a really good theme and really good confections. We had some cupcakes, chocolates, ice creams. Of course they got all the back, like the Goofy's snacks and all that, like they have in the parks. The actual cupcakes and chocolates and ice creams and all that, it was really good. We really enjoyed it. And, it's not insanely expensive for what it is. So we did that, and then we also went back down and did Nightingales one more time. We also did earlier in the day, I forgot, we did the Tag and Compass as well. So we basically hit every adult like lounge / nightclub / bar except for Tiana's, which is kind of hilarious since it's literally the easiest one to get to. It's right in the middle of the ship. We walked through it 3 or 4 times, but we never stopped and had a drink or food there. So, and then did some gift shopping, and we did the Kiss Goodnight. We went down to the Grand Hall, laid down, and watched the final Kiss Goodnight of the sailing, and then went back up to the room and packed.
Yeah, the Kiss Goodnight is a nice little surprise that you can see pretty much each night of the sailing. I believe they do it at 11 and midnight, but it's a cool little show that they do over on the chandelier there. But we sadly move into our final morning disembarkation. Yeah. How was that process for you guys?
It was great. As a former cast member, I will say, please don't do this to the point where you become annoying. But we do like dragging our feet a little bit. Disembarkation day, we are not one that wants to do the express off, run right off the ship as soon as the gangway goes down. We're not booking ourselves an 11 a.m. departure from MCO or anything crazy like that. So we had breakfast. We settled up our, got one more like print off of the final bill, made sure we had our future cruise deposit purchased, and then just kind of sat in the Grand Hall and took it all in. And when she and I had a conversation, what was your favorite part? What was your favorite part? And we really found ourselves multiple times through that voyage saying, man, I bet our kids would love this. Or this kid in particular would think that was cool. Or, oh, I wish this kid could have seen that. And it was really bittersweet. It was the first time we've gone on an adults only cruise, and we both kind of wished our kids had been there. It was the first time we had that experience, especially on disembarkation morning. We're like, man, this was a lot of fun, but I wish we would have brought the kids. So, spoiler alert, we're taking them. No, about 5 weeks, I think, from now is when we'll be there. So.
Awesome. Well, that kind of covers what's next for you guys. We have another 4-night on the Wish planned here. I believe you also mentioned it's a Very Merry cruise as well.
Yep, it's actually a little longer than I thought it was. It's on November 4th, and it's the first Very Maritime sailing in the fleet for this year. So we are super excited. It'll be our first themed cruise out of all the cruises we've done. We've never done, we've never done a Halloween on the high seas, or we've never done Maritime, Marvel, Star Wars. We've never done any of that. So this will be a first time for that. 2 of my 3 kids, this will be their first cruise that they're old enough to remember. So that'll be cool for them. And they have no idea we're doing it. So it's going to be a secret until all the way up until embarkation morning. So that'll be a lot of fun as well.
That is very exciting. Well, Virgil, that is going to take us out of this show. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing you and your wife's experience on the Wish. And we definitely look forward to having you back on to hear how your Very Merry sailing goes with the kids and how that experience differs from this one on the same ship.
Wonderful. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much, Lake.
Absolutely. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of the DCL Podcast. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Well, that's going to wrap up our show. Once again, we want to thank Virgil for coming on and sharing him and his wife's sailing on the Disney Wish. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also like to thank our Patreons who help make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by visiting patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, going to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. And we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.